Imagine you're an immigrant in the United States. Your father came here 10 years ago when you were only 12 years old. He got a job and you got your green card. Now you're graduating from college soon and you just received your citizenship. You can't be more excited because you can vote in the coming elections. Then you hear something from one of your friends at the college that totally surprises you. Your friend, who is also a United States citizen, cannot vote. Maybe because he's not registered as a voter, and all he should do is to go through the process just like you, right? But he tells you he won't be able to vote even if he tries to register to vote. Now you're shocked, and if this wasn't already enough to blow your mind, he tells you that his father was born a US citizen and he isn't an immigrant in the country. He's been a US citizen all his life, and to make things even weirder, his grandfather and great-grandfather were also US citizens. In fact, all his ancestors have been US citizens since 1917. You'd probably tell him, I don't get it. You are much more American than me. I became a citizen 2 years ago. I wasn't even born here, let alone my parents. So, what's going on here? I'm Sam, and this is the First World Second-Class Citizens. The United States of America consists of 50 states and 16 U.S. territories. A territory is an area of land that is administered by the United States government, but not officially claimed by any of the 50 states or any other world nation. The people of the U.S. territories all became U.S. citizens since 1917, but the only way they can participate in the presidential elections is if they have official residency in the United States, which means one of the 50 states. In other words, voters residing in Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, Guam, American Samoa, and all these U.S. territories are not permitted to vote in any federal election.
Which makes Puerto Ricans U.S. citizens, well, second-class citizens, because despite fighting in every one of our wars, they still can't vote for president and have no representation in Congress. In other words, U.S. citizens who have fuck all say in the laws the U.S. government makes for them.
José Luis Madero was a Puerto Rican recipient of SSI benefits, or Supplemental Security Income, a program that provides cash payments to U.S. citizens who are older than 65 or disabled. At the time, he was living in New York. He then moved back to Puerto Rico in 2013 and continued to receive SSI benefits for some time. Everything seems normal so far, just a U.S. citizen receiving some of the tax money he's paid to the government when he needs it most, right? After all, this is why you pay taxes, for such programs to support you when you need it most. But eventually the government discovered his new residence, terminated the SSI benefits, and he was asked to pay back $28,000 that he had received while he was staying in Puerto Rico. The case was taken to the court. You might think, but the court didn't vote against him, right? After all, he's just an old man who's worked hard and paid taxes all his life. Just another US citizen. Well, not exactly. José Luis Madero lost the case and was ordered to pay back $28,000 to the federal government. There are currently around 3.5 million American citizens living in U.S. territories, most of them in Puerto Rico, that are denied many federal beneficial programs. To make it even stranger, they're included in the federal tax system. So they pay federal taxes like any other citizen while not getting back what they've paid for. Does it remind you of something? Puerto Rico's population is bigger than 21 other states of the U.S. With no say in any general elections, Puerto Ricans are always subject to being neglected by any president. A recent example can be the government's response to the Hurricane Marina in 2017 that devastated the area. Many believe if Puerto Rico was a state with the right to vote, the government would have done a totally different job there. Even the governor of Puerto Rico said he believes they are treated as second-class citizens.
And I need to end with this. The United States needs to address the colonial problem in Puerto Rico. There is no way that we can magnify this while being treated as second-class citizens.
No Nobody knows what will happen to U.S. territories and their residents in the future. Will they stay tax-paying citizens with no say in the law and government, or will they become U.S. states? Well, sometimes to predict the future, it's necessary to look at the past. The history of the U.S. shows that areas with a non-white majority were not given statehood when they asked for it until enough Eastern settlers resettled in those areas. In other words, there has never been any territory granted statehood without having a majority white population. That has been the path to statehood for basically every current U.S. state. Now, the question is, will that be the case for Puerto Rico too? Do they need to have more than 3 million white people to become a state? It's also hard to understand why the U.S. Congress, with the power to grant statehood to territories, hasn't made Puerto Rico a state yet. The reality is, there won't be a significant change in terms of economy if a U.S. territory becomes a state. The difference will be only political. No one in either party seems to be ready for millions of Puerto Ricans to become voters and start a new chapter in American political history. Both parties feel the danger of Puerto Rico being politically dominated by the other party. Republicans aren't really comfortable with a state with majority Hispanic voters. Their past results obviously shows the reason. And Democrats are heavily focused on granting Washington, D.C. the statehood. Well, there's a lot of rich donors over there, something Puerto Rico clearly doesn't have. Also, poor areas have a history of surprising Democrats in federal elections in the most difficult times. That's a big risk to add another poor state to the U.S. For now, there is not any clear path for over 3.5 million U.S. citizens to start being treated as citizens. But it isn't as bad as it seems to be. Results of the last 3 referendum clearly shows that Puerto Ricans are becoming less and less interested in statehood. Some Puerto Ricans fear that becoming 29th biggest state in America might disrupt their easygoing, happy, and traditional way of life. American politics in the past 10 years has made changes to the society, and it has changed the atmosphere in some states. Many U.S. states don't look as appealing as they were 10 years ago.
Give me a gun, I'll shoot you.
Puerto Ricans are becoming more aware of the polarizing and politicizing that has been happening in those states. When the right to vote comes, it won't come alone. There will be political campaigns, rich donors for universities, massive media coverage of smallest incidents, and big changes to many institutions that each party will make in order to create future voters for itself. What do you think about the future of Puerto Rico? Please share your comments. You can watch other videos like this here. See you on the next journey.